On this episode, we discuss Boat Trip.
In a fairly ill-thought-out Pride Month special.
Everyone, welcome to the Flophouse. I'm Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
I'm Elliot Kalin. That was if I was a race car.
And with us today, yet again, a returning, a favorite guest, Alonso Duralde of Maximum Film on the Max Fun Network, other podcasts, but also the new book, Hollywood Pride. Alonso, is there a subtitle to your book? Tell me.
Oh, God, there is, but it's so long I can never remember it. Hang on. A celebration of LGBTQ plus representation and perseverance in film.
Oh, and we picked the perfect movie.
Yeah.
And I'm here to make it okay for you guys to talk about.
Thank you.
In full disclosure, we were talking to Alonso about being on, and he was like, "What about Boat Trip?" So we didn't bring this project to him.
Yeah, we he gave us some possibles, and honestly, my thinking was like, okay, well, some of these movies are bad but have their heart in the right place, and I don't know if I want to make fun of that. Let's make fun of something where I don't feel bad making fun of it. But then I'm like, but that means that we watched Boat Trip, which was a horrible experience.
I made the same argument. My wife was like, you shouldn't be talking about that. I'm like, but I feel like oftentimes when you, like
those who forget the past.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Are doomed to make Boat Trip too.
Oh, no.
Let's do
Boat
a bad
Trip,
gay movie.
Beginning.
Yeah.
Let's do a bad gay movie that clearly had not one single gay person involved in any aspect of its production.
Yeah, it is a very specific type of straight person's idea of what a gay world is like. But
also,
it means
it feels
sets
like
it up for the prequel, Das Boot Trip, where it's about unspoken love between Nazis.
I'm gonna take it one step further. I feel like nobody involved has been on a cruise before.
I was
curious about that because, Stu and Dan, you have a lot of experience with cruises.
Yeah, we're cruise masters.
Yeah, you're really into cruising. And I was wondering,
it's a double entendre.
Did it feel like this was true to your experience of what it's like to be on a cruise ship?
Well, totally, every moment.
My main objection, and we'll get to this in the movie, but they take so long to realize that they're on a gay cruise and not a cruise of wild heterosexual women that they can hit on. And my experience of being on cruises, I've only been on 2. It's not like but my experience is it takes a
Dan just throws his money around willy-nilly at every cruise company that comes by his door.
Not
Drop
true.
an anchor in every port.
Yeah, we got old triangle of Dan-ness over here.
I mean, which is the triangle of sadness often, unfortunately, yeah.
We know some travel agents who make it very
Huckleberry
affordable.
Travel. Shout out to Huckleberry
nice.
Travel.
I
have
a travel agent called The
agents.
And Huckleberry Travel's a super LGBTQ+.
Let me get out
the
goddamn point. It's true though. No, what I'm saying is they take so long to realize, and it's my experience that a cruise takes a long time to leave port. They would have plenty of time to realize their mistake, pick up their luggage, disembark, be safely on the dock.
Then it would just.
And then there'd be no movie, and where would that leave us?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Richer, arguably.
It's just like John Ford said when someone said in Stagecoach, how come the natives don't just shoot the horses of the stagecoach rather than chasing them? And he said, because then I don't have a movie.
Yeah.
If they do that. So, Dan, if they realized if these characters had any intelligence whatsoever, they would not, or compassion for human beings, they would not have a film. Yeah. So.
No, that's true.
And we'll be using Stagecoach as a touchstone throughout this episode.
I feel like there's a lot of similarities.
Much like a Taxi Driver and Hardcore are both takes on The Searchers. Boat Trip is very much a take on Stagecoach. Yeah.
So let's get into this.
Much like Paul Schrader is working through his feelings about the Searchers. The director of this film, Mort Nathan, a former producer head writer for the Golden Girls, was working through his feelings about John Ford's other films with this
Yes, well, I'm glad you interrupted me to say exactly what I was going to say, which was, yes, Mort Nathan.
You don't sound glad
I'm
at all.
sorry. I forgot that I'm Nostradamus, and I know ahead of time what you're going to say at all moments.
I mean, not interrupting me is also
I guess
the
I didn't
option.
check my scrying glass to see what Dan was about to say. I'll do that next time.
Linda Holmes is going to call us about this moment later. Co-writer and director Mort Nathan, yes, like you said, one of the co-producers and head writers of The Golden Girls, also less successfully than The Golden Girls, not than Boat Trip, maybe equally successful to Boat Trip. The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer, another notoriously ill-conceived.
With its own share of dated already at the time gay humor in it too, yeah.
And Mort Nathan is also the Nathan of Nathan's Hot Dogs, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and the brother
he's
of
the
Mort Trucker.
from
I guess that's how they
Bazooka
do it.
Joe.
Yeah, and he's Mort the Dead Teenager.
He's
Marvel
the
comic.
Nathan's hot dog jokes, actually, in this movie. But that how you can come away with having worked on the Golden Girls for years and still know this little about gay people
Yes.
just boggles everything I know about pop culture.
I wonder. There's part of me that wonders, like, did he leave the Golden Girls the same way that these guys leave that cruise, being like, what were we on? What happened? We had no idea. Dan, you should also mention, though, he did go to greater things. He did also direct Van Wilder, The Rise of Taj.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, shit.
I was wondering about how Taj rose so high.
Now you're going to find out.
Well, let's get into this.
What if instead it was Gene Wilder, The Rise of Taj? Would that be a more interesting movie?
Yes. I don't have anything
Almost
more to say about it.
automatically.
I'm confirming.
Yeah, what about Billy Wilder? National Lampoon's Billy Wilder, The
What
Rise
if
of
it was
Taj?
National Lampoon's Gene Roddenberry, The Rise of Taj?
I mean, yeah, that would be. How did they get involved? I don't understand. How do they know each other? Yeah.
We're drifting far from shore in the same
Just
way
like the boat.
boat might.
That time I did know what you were going to say, Dan, and I did deliberately say it. Yeah.
Yeah. This movie begins with some zany...
Oh, should we also mention that we in no way endorse
Yes.
the activities of Cuba Gooding Jr. and Horatio Sands, two accused
Yes,
predators
that's
of
probably
various
a good
types.
idea.
Yeah.
I doubt that people would assume we would, but yeah, we'll stipulate that up
But
top.
they are
Okay.
representing all heterosexuality in this movie. I just want
They
to put
are.
that out there.
Yeah,
okay.
and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want
Your
to apologize
ambassadors.
for Boat Trip on behalf of
They were UN,
heterosexual-
they were named official UN heterosexuality ambassadors.
Yeah, we get some zany music. We get an early 2000s font. We get Cuba Gooding.
It is like
Jr.
full-on cartoon music.
Let's put a pin in this. We get James Brown's "I
Well,
Feel Good."
Not yet. Not yet.
No, before
No.
this.
We get Cuba Gooding Jr. proposing to someone. Oh,
Vivica
you're
A.
right.
Fox.
it's
Not
just his dog.
Oh,
it's
that's
just his
right,
dog.
that's
But
right.
now we know
Wah,
that he wants to propose to someone, and then we get
And that he has a dog.
I Feel Good. The fact that it comes back at the end of the movie, even though we've forgotten it in the meantime.
I mean, would you take a dog with you on a cruise? Probably not.
No, but why bring the dog? Like, was it so important that the dog exists that we have to see him then again at the wedding at the end of the movie?
They needed those cutaway shots because those are comedy gold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything's funnier when a dog is watching it. Just like in my book, Horse Meets Dog. On
Wow.
shelves.
Man, sneaky
but
little
I
plug.
think- Let me, guys, ask you a question.
Sure.
I've always found Cuba Gooding Jr. to be an unappealing personality on film. Do you think that they were like, give him a dog? It'll make him seem that much more likable.
Well, I think that's kind of the thing about his performance in this whole movie is that I'm like, I guess I remember him from Jerry Maguire,
Uh-huh.
and I guess I remember him from the People versus OJ, where he plays OJ. But like,
And Snow Dogs.
does he he acts like some kind of weird innocent in this movie where his brain doesn't quite work. And
Yeah.
he's like
Yeah, it's the kind of thing
experiencing
Robin Williams
everything
would
for
do
the first
sometimes. Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But does he do that in every movie, or is this like a facade that he has adopted because he's like, I don't for this specific role. I don't know.
He's kind of the audience surrogate in Boys in the Hood, right? Where
Yeah,
he's,
that's
you know,
true.
but yeah, this one it does seem like everything is all shiny and new and non-understandable to him.
I think this is his idea of what like a nice guy is like. Like, he's supposed to be the nice guy, and Horatio Sands is supposed to be the horn dog in the classic kind of comedy and tragedy double mask act that 80s comedies are built on.
Yeah, it's like Splash with John Candy and Tom Hanks.
Exactly. And so he's supposed to be like the nice guy, and he takes nice to mean like, naive, innocent of the world, doesn't know anything.
He's also relatively, subdued in Boys in the Hood, which is one of his better performances. And then in Jerry Maguire, he plays this character who's big, and that's like kind of to mask the insecurity beneath, and that works really well from him. And then I felt like after that, he just kind of was like, everything's going to be at 11. And maybe that's what you're responding to, Elliot. I don't know.
I have an Academy Award.
Yeah. That's proof that I can spend time with snow dogs if I want.
And he was in Chill Factor too, right?
He was in Chill Factor about a bomb that needs to stay cold.
I remember the commercials for that. I loved it. They were like, a bomb is on the loose, and an ice cream man and this other guy have to keep it cold. Like, the commercial was like, are you buying this? Can you believe this?
Okay, guys, we haven't even hit the title of the movie yet. So
it's Boat Trip Down.
As in the film, as Alonso noted, the most overused needle drop this side of Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, I Feel Good, comes in to show us that he's feeling good. We get a montage of him walking a dog, intercut with him dancing at home.
Is this something?
He's also in Rat Race, which uses the Smash Mouth.
All-Star?
Thank you. Yes. The other most overplayed needle drop in cinema history.
So is this something that people do in real life? Because they seem to do it a lot in movies, just kind of like dancing by themselves in their house.
I do.
I dance on my own myself. Yeah,
okay, just by yourself? Do you like you're dancing up and down stairs and things like that?
Elliot, it's the only time I can feel uninhibited,
Okay.
Do you sing into the hairbrush, though?
Yeah.
Well, I
do it all. No, it's usually, I'm in the kitchen, so it's usually like a wooden spoon.
Okay. Spatula, maybe.
You sing
I'm in my tidy whities. I'm wearing a button-down shirt with most of the buttons undone.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're remembering a movie.
You sing to like in your reflection in a pot that's hanging from the from the scale.
Have
rack?
you been spying on me, Elliot?
So
living that Nancy Myers lifestyle.
Exactly.
Oh, I wish. Kitchen the size of a ballroom. Yeah.
Exactly. I have so many notes for this movie. You can't spend this much time. Cuba. We get a proposal. Not to a dog this time, to his girlfriend, Vivica A. Fox. We're in a hot air balloon, which brought to mind Roger Ebert's hot air balloon rule, which we discussed before.
We've discussed that there's at least 2 exceptions to that rule.
Yeah,
Wizard of Oz and
Great Muppet Caper, which but Alonso will give grudging tolerance of the Great Muppet Caper.
But the rule being, of course, no good movie with a hot air balloon. He's got motion sickness which is a weird one to me for a hot air balloon. Like, maybe fear of heights, but it's moving so slowly.
Yeah.
But
you have a horizon.
Yeah, and if he gets like seasick like that, he shouldn't go on a cruise, man.
Good point. Because
I would like it more if the plot of the movie was I had motion sickness and it messed up my proposal. I need to confront this by going on a cruise and just facing my motion sickness down. That would be a funnier reason to do it.
Setups and payoffs, Fizz.
Yep.
He can't propose because he's too sick. Fox tells him to spit it out, which of course is a cue for him to vomit all over. Hilarity. She denies him, but not because of the vomit, which would be pretty shallow. She's met someone else. So returns home.
She's a jerk. She's very clearly the woman that he loves, but who is wrong for him. That he should not be with.
I mean, I would argue that what we know about Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character throughout the rest of the movie, she is well read of this man.
No, well, I'd say in the world that the movie is hoping to exist in, where Jerry, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, is a nice guy who deserves better. She is the
At this point in the plot, that's what it's what he deserves.
Yes.
Yes. Jerry returns home.
He has yet to discover his full self by being on a cruise with a bunch of stereotypes for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. How long were they on that cruise?
8 years.
When Jerry returns home, he is no longer feeling good. the opposite of the song.
He should play this. A funny joke would have been if he played the song backwards.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd have been sick.
And then we get a 6 months later Chiron.
Hell yeah.
Right away.
It's a good sign.
We've only met 2 characters. 6 months later.
And a dog.
We meet Cuba/Jerry's buddy, Horatio Sands. I'm mostly going to refer to like the main characters by the actor's name because it's just easier. Horatio wants to cheer Cuba up, get him out on the town, and we see Horatio then at his work.
At his job,
At his job.
where he's a maintenance man at a spa.
Yes.
Yep.
And he walks through a woman. He walks through a woman.
That would be an amazing trick. What is he, Kitty Pryde?
But he can only do it once. No, he walks through a room where a woman is naked on a massage table awaiting her massage. And he does some, Three Stooges like reactions.
She calls out. She's like, "Come on, give me my massage, Joey," or whoever she thinks is in the room. And him, instead of being a human being,
Joey from the Concrete Blonde song.
Exactly. Instead of being a human being and saying, "I'm sorry, I'm not the masseuse," or just leaving the room, he can't. It's unclear from his performance whether he is just so horny to touch a naked woman's back, or that he is so embarrassed that she's going to find out that the masseuse isn't there. Or
you are giving him way too much credit.
I mean, it starts out definitely as horniness, and then it becomes frustration as he is unable to massage her as hard as she demands. Yeah. And so this somehow
it's hard to
escalates.
be a masseuse. He doesn't have experience. Yeah.
Stuff on the hand.
By the way, male, it's a masseur. Masseuses are women.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, what about Dr. Seuss?
That's a whole other story.
Okay.
As the masseur in my home, I get tired. Like if I'm massaging Audrey's shoulders, like I immediately get tired.
Yeah, your hands get tired so hard when you're so quickly. It hurts. But also the fact that a maintenance man should not be walking through a room where a naked client is. That's on this.
Yes.
I mean, it's so many so many liabilities. Like it's yeah.
But
unless you know early that this movie is not interested in ideas like consent.
Sure. Yep. It's important. It's important to get that out of the way.
That should have
been the slogan on the poster. Not interested in ideas of consent.
Anyway, he was so goaded by her cries for a harder massage that he eventually sticks a plunger on her butt. And then that's the punchline to that scene.
Pulls the poop right out.
Yep.
If only.
Later at a party, Sands runs into character actor Stephen M. Porter, someone who you recognize from like TV, a lot of stuff.
Lots of stuff.
He has a hot date, and Sands tactfully assumes out loud that she's an escort in front of everybody. But his friend says,
would be fine. Sex work is work.
Yeah, but she may not want to be outed in front of everyone.
No, that's fair too.
I think the implication that he would have to hire someone to be his date to a party is also, not the most flattering one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a she's out of your league situation here.
Yeah, exactly.
But
she is all that, I think, is what they're.
His friend
she takes the glasses off. Yeah.
She's better with the glasses, Alonso. She should have kept those glasses on.
Look, Anne Hathaway should have kept her eyebrows in the Princess Diaries. You don't have to tell me.
Sure. She looked kind of like Kim Novak before she got rid of the eyebrows.
Anyway, keeping with the sensitivity, his friend says, quote, "She ain't no escort skank." This is his fiance. And Horatio finds out that he met this beautiful fiance on a cruise. And the guy basically claims that a cruise is a floating fuck palace, which gets Sands right on board and makes him immediately uninterested in the bar he's taken Cuba Gooding Jr. out to.
He's like, let's leave right now and get on a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the opening of fucking Moby Dick.
I would love it if it was.
that Queequeg walks in with a shrunken head in his hands.
Yeah, Queequeg's like, let's go get some fucking strange, dude.
Ishmael, get out of the bed we're sharing. Let's go. Let's get some other people in here.
Yeah, I would love if it immediately went to they went to an all-night cruise booking place, but instead.
They put the sex in sextant.
It cuts to the next day. When they're going to book a cruise, Sands gets into a shouting match after a traffic altercation with Artie Lang.
Very easy to get into a shouting match with Artie Lang. Horatio Sands has no sympathy with me the entire movie, but I feel like that's a situation that's not that hard to get into. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they
We've
go
all
to
been
book
there.
this cruise. And
Now,
they're
shouting match with Jessica Lange, harder to do.
but more intense once you get there.
Oh, for
Katie
sure.
Lang. Whew.
Constant yelling.
I feel like you'd just be apologizing back and forth if you got a shouting match with Katie Lang. I'm so sorry. No, I'm so sorry.
No, please. Forgive me.
Yeah, so they're trying to book a cruise with what the agent calls the traditional 3-to-1 female to male ratio. When Will Ferrell enters to say that to the travel agent that their mother died,
That's kind of a funny bit.
There is a funny
Yeah.
one that goes, didn't you see the post-it note I left for you?
well, I will say that because this is a comedy professional who wrote for the Golden Girls for many years, there are individual jokes in here that do work, but they are so poisoned by the well of Boat Trip that
Yeah.
I cannot find many of them amusing.
Now,
But
it's interesting for me to think about where this was in Will Ferrell's career, because I was trying to figure out, is this him as a star doing a cameo, or is this him as an up-and-comer doing a small role? And this is after, like, Zoolander came out, but it's before Old School. And, like, so I wonder if he's kind of in that middle ground. He's still an up-and-comer.
This movie was filmed in 2001, but wasn't released until 2003. I'm assuming while it was filming in 2001, that was the reason the terrorists attacked did 9/11 is because they were trying to shut down the production of Boat Trip.
yeah,
Probably. Yeah, they
probably.
erroneously thought it was happening at the World Trade Center and not somewhere in Hollywood, yeah.
Pentagon.
So Farrell scares off the agent who runs off crying, and that agent is replaced by Artie Lang, and they do the exact same shouting match over again, which honestly I found kind of a funny beat just because it's the same thing over again, but it could so easily be eliminated because then Will Ferrell is like, could you go away? I'll handle it. And Will Ferrell books them, and our heroes, heroes, leave. And we learn that, our protagonists leave, and we learn that Artie and Will are a couple, and Artie's like, I can't believe you took care of them. And Will ominously says, oh, I took care of them all right. What does this mean? We'll find out very soon. Or in the trailer to Boat Trip, presumably. Which explains the premise.
Or on the poster. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, the poster. So the poster is it creates a real different concept. I'm looking at it now. The poster for Boat Trip, the one that's on Wikipedia anyway. The tagline is "Singles Cruise, Double Trouble," and it shows Cuba Gooding Jr. shoulder deep in water with Vivica A. Fox and Rosalind Sanchez, and then Horatio Sanz is behind them going like ah, and so
mugging.
Yeah, mugging. So the poster would lead you to believe that this is a love triangle on a cruise movie, or it's this guy has too many babes, more than he can handle. Like even the poster is like ashamed of what the movie is about. I would like to think it's that the movie poster was like the people making the poster were like, we cannot in good conscience advertise the premise of this movie. But I bet it was more them worrying that customers would not come to a movie that felt too gay. That's my worry.
Sometimes you have to sell the straight sizzle and not the gay steak,
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the gay rotten liver in this case.
Yeah, it's like the trailers for Desert Hearts that made it seem about a guy who works at a casino who can't get the waitress to go out with him.
Really?
No, not really. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a character like that in the movie, but
The original poster for the Birdcage was just them holding guns.
They photoshopped them in front of a bank. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I thought the Birdcage was a bank they were knocking over.
That's where the teller is hiding.
So anyway, our protagonists arrive at the boat where Horatio Sanz creepily enthuses that the best part of it is that on a cruise, women can't get away from them. Their options are them or drowning or being eaten by sharks. And at this point, I consider calling the police on Boat Trip.
Again, consent for suckers.
Yeah, the cops told me that I couldn't arrest a movie, that's not, not that they
Their
didn't
job.
want to, but those clowns in Congress wouldn't pass a law. So.
There's no law against being a bad movie.
Yeah. Anyway, the guys are very slow to wonder why there are only men on this boat. They write off some leather dudes in assless pants as Cirque du Soleil performers, probably.
This is the first of the parade of kind of like, this is a movie in the early 2000s, but the kind of like 80s or 70s, I feel like, level, like gay stereotypes that it's like gay guys, yeah, they're probably all into leather, and they cannot not be in leather. Like they
that's
have
part
to,
of culture.
like it's not like you would go to brunch in regular clothes and then get into your sex clothes for sex. You wear them all the time.
Well, look, on a cruise, I'm sure there are people who, they're making it happen 24/7.
Yeah, maybe.
But these movies do love to lump all gay people together in that way.
Yeah.
So, like, I always think of the recurring Blue Oyster Bar gag in the Police Academy movies.
Exactly.
Where they're like leather dudes, but they dance the tango. Like, it's every sort of like, that seems fruity. We'll just put it all in that one room, as though like we all mingle together or we all like, pursue multiple fetishes at the same time.
That's so much work.
It is a very cartoony, idea of how this stuff works. It'd be like if they showed, Stuart like with a barbell in one hand and like delicately painting a Warhammer figure in the other hand. It's like, pick a lane,
ridiculous.
movie.
Unrealistic. Now, how could one
All
person...
of Stuart stuff.
Oh, man. I'm glad that normally on your...
includes such multitudes.
On your other podcast, you would have to say iffy, but luckily you can just swap names on that one.
Yeah, how comforting
You're
is it
basically
to...
interchangeable.
We have the same birthday. It's wild.
That's
I
crazy.
know.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm just like Garfield, the cat. Anyway.
You're voiced by Chris Pratt?
Yeah, everybody is now.
That's why everyone's turned against me lately.
Yeah, I feel like that's like the modern version of The Matrix, where Agent Smith is turning everybody into Agent Smiths. Like Chris Pratt is turning everyone into Chris Pratts.
Every IP
assimilating
is
all the
becoming Chris
cartoon
Pratt.
characters.
Dan, are you excited about that new Sherlock Holmes animated movie they announced with Chris Pratt as Sherlock Holmes?
Is there one? Is that an actual
but it would
thing?
be pretty funny if there was.
I heard Dan's fucking heartbreak when you said that, Elliot.
It did a little bit.
Dan,
although
they figured out Sherlock Holmes would be better if he was a slacker loser.
People have asked me this before, and my answer about Sherlock Holmes is like, I actually do whatever the fuck you want with Sherlock Holmes because there's so many versions of him out there that like it's not going to bother me that I have my version of the character. You can have yours.
I don't know,
okay.
Dan. Considering you did a presentation about Sherlock Holmes in England recently, where you seem to take real issue with the real Ghostbusters version of Sherlock Holmes.
What? Just because they left Winston a football with their signatures on it at the end? Now, granted, the real Ghostbusters had been playing football earlier in the episode, so that's why the football reoccurred. But I don't know why that has to be what Holmes and Watson sign as a memento of their encounter. Anyway, so they're on the boat. They're reading all of the stuff that's available to them on the cruise.
Yeah, welcome packet.
Yeah, they only
brochures and whatnot.
They start getting suspicious around the time they get to chest waxing is one of the things that can be done. And but their fears are assuaged by
only gay men groom. Straight men are supposed to keep their bodies in a natural state of disguise.
That was the time where
probably.
Like around that time, if you took showers, you were considered metrosexual.
There is to this day an entire school of men's grooming that you will only buy like an exfoliating pad or a deodorant stick if it comes packaged to look like fishing tackle or dynamite.
Yeah, like brass knuckles.
Thank you to our sponsor, Manscaping.
Manscaped rules.
We don't believe this, Dan. We don't believe it. We're all about grooming ourselves, removing hair, removing scents, removing fingernails if we have to.
No, I'm just joking about the fact that they needed to put man in the title. Although it is, I mean,
Manscaped, it could very easily be a gay product as well.
Genderless product.
Man is not a hetero word.
Yes, anyone can use it. Their fears are assuaged.
Except for women. It says man right there in the title. Sorry, ladies.
Their fears are assuaged by the entrance of their neighbor Hector in drag, and Sans dances around with Hector a bit.
So this is one of many situations where people are able to just enter other people's staterooms without a key or anything. And I mean, I don't know if they've changed cruise ship technology significantly, but I don't think you can just do that, right?
Only on gay cruises because we have no sense of boundaries.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, that was the thing about this that really I was just like, even on like a hetero sex cruise, like even if like presume I know it's hard to believe. Presume that the makers of Boat Trip are homophobic and hold bad, incorrect views about gay people. But on a hetero sex cruise, they wouldn't have no locks on anything, and people wouldn't just be wandering in all over the place. Like any sort of sex cruise, whether it be gay or not gay, there's still, boundaries
Dan's
to be.
pitching his own sex
There are
cruise.
clearly scheduled orgy moments, and then there's a break.
Yes.
You need boundaries. You need boundaries even in a sexual relationship, you know.
Yeah.
Dan, I think they were hoping the audience would be so distracted by the over-the-top Latin stereotype that we're watching that they wouldn't even think about those things.
So at the bar, one of the bars on the boat, they meet Roger Moore, and I perk up a little bit just because Roger Moore's on screen.
If
fresh
there is,
off
I'll
of
just say
Spice
right now,
World.
if anyone leaves this movie with their dignity intact, it's Roger Moore. He's the only one, I feel like. In fact, I feel like he is the one character, the one actor in the movie who is borderline not embarrassing himself constantly, but I don't know.
Yeah.
The material is terrible.
he's committing to the bit, but when you make this guy lick a breakfast sausage, it's
Yes,
just like
that's terrible.
that is true.
But he's the only guy who can do that terrible, not funny bit. And when it's over, I'm like, well, he's a professional. Look, he's going to do what they tell him to do.
That's what it is.
He's thinking to himself like, I'm in a Carry-On movie, basically.
Yes, yeah.
The material he's given is terrible, but somehow he seems untouched by it in a weird way.
Maybe it's just me remembering how funny he is in Spice World and
Could
having
be.
the fumes of that since we watched that recently.
Anyway, he touts how much sex is on the cruise. He says that they must visit the hole-in-one range where the chaps swing some very large clubs.
Ugh, forget what I said.
Yeah, that's a level of double entendre fit for a Big Johnson T-shirt.
And this is what I love. The double entendres.
It's like a child wrote what they thought was a sexy joke.
The double entendres are about to end, and I love this because he asks if they have an open relationship, then invites them on a midnight swim to do whatever feels right, saying then that is what a gay cruise is all about, which is clunky dialogue for him to just say it that way. But I was glad that someone told them directly because these two doofuses could have gone through the whole movie without realizing that they were on a gay cruise.
I feel like that would have been funnier if at no point they actually realized it.
It would be funnier if they were on this cruise, had sex with men, left the cruise, went home, never realizing it was a gay cruise or what was going on. And then the movie ended with them being like, that was a fun cruise. And them never being so oblivious to everything that was happening around them.
Cruises are really fun.
Under the closing credits, like showing slides of the trip and having people be like, you realize you were on a gay cruise, right? What? No.
Of course we weren't.
So the other shoe is dropped, and Horatio Sands freaks out, and Cuba Gooding Jr. faints from the absolute horror of probably being at the best party they've ever been to in their lives for the next week.
Yeah.
This is very also feels like a strange thing to have in 2002, 2003, like a movie where straight men they act as if they're on a boat filled with monsters. For a moment,
Yeah,
I mean,
they find out everone's a werewolf.
Yeah.
Will and Grace was on the air at this point. We can't pretend like this is, the 1982 or something. Not that it would have been forgivable then either. But yeah, the level of hysteria, and all I kept thinking of was there's a thing that goes around the internet every so often where people say the straight men who are the most upset about gay people are the ones who realize that who think that gay men are going to treat them the way they treat women, and seeing how we've seen Horatio Sanz and Cuba Gooding Jr.'s characters treat women, I guess that's a valid fear on their behalf.
Yes.
That's a good point. I also think on some level, I think this movie is pretty good for representation because up to this point, usually when there's gay characters in movies, they're like dressed well, they're well-spoken, they're a little bit fabulous. But I feel like the vast majority of people on this cruise dress like shit.
This is a super normcore gay cruise. Yeah,
we can be anonymous dullards too.
Yeah.
It is a rainbow stew. Yeah, you're right. The rainbow styles, tastes. Yeah.
Some dumb shenanigans where they get angry and roll in the bed together, and
That's true.
Somebody walks in and assumes
Hector,
that they're in bed together, even though they're clearly angry and fully clothed.
I don't know, Elliot. Have you ever done it before?
Elliot, don't
okay, fair
shame
point.
me.
Yeah, I've never had fight sex before where you're battling each other, but there is.
Yeah.
It is.
That's
But it is.
Don't knock it till you tried it, baby.
That's another old-fashioned joke where if two human beings are having any sort of physical contact and someone walks in, it must be sexual, in their minds. It's the same way that like Noises Off where you're someone's helping someone out with a zipper and it's like, oh, this must be a blowjob situation. It doesn't really make sense for these two characters to be in a blowjob situation, but I have to assume that's the case.
They're on a gay cruise without door locks, all right? Everything is suspicious.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you think all the rooms on every deck connect at like one long court, like it's the back rooms, kind of? Like everything just kind of connects in one long apocalyptic corridor of open doors?
And it all leads to the driving range.
Yeah.
There's a brief montage of them.
The ship is somehow larger on the inside than on the outside.
It's a gay TARDIS.
There's a brief montage of them not enjoying the entertainment on this cruise, which of course makes sense because if there's one area that gay people historically have not excelled, it's theater arts, cabaret style performances.
They just don't know how to do it.
Cuba is so drunk and despondent, he falls into the pool and hits his head.
I gotta say, this is the first time we see one of our let's say our three leads. Him, Cuba Gooding Jr., Horatio Sands, and Vivica A. Fox. They all have a scene where they get very drunk. And in every case, I'm like, this person has never been drunk before in their life. Because they are behaving wild. Like, he has regressed to like childhood at this point. He's like stomping around like an angry baby. And I have spent a lot of time around drunk people, and I have very rarely seen this kind of behavior.
Yeah, that's a good point. He is rescued
but
by
has Cuba Gooding Jr. ever been in your bar?
Yeah.
I hope not. He's banned.
Based on
He wasn't before, he is now.
Yeah. He's rescued by Gabriella, who we will later learn is the ship's dance instructor. Meanwhile, Sands is so upset he's on this cruise. He shoots.
This is Rosalind Sanchez from your favorite show, Without a Trace. I'm sorry, I'm surprised you didn't mention that.
Without a Trace.
Yeah.
About people who vanish, one presumes, without a trace.
Oh wow!
Spoken like someone who's seen every episode.
Yeah. Sands is so distressed.
She was also on your other favorite show, Devious Maids.
Devious Maids?
Yeah.
There's so much more entertaining than straightforward maids.
These maids are devious. They move all your stuff.
I gotta say, that's a fucking good name.
It is a good name.
I know you can hire like a naked housekeeper, but do people advertise as I'm a devious housekeeper?
I mean, I would be in for it because I'm a fiend for drama, baby.
I've switched out all of your clothes for one size smaller every time I'm here.
I will do the laundry. I will change the sheets. I won't do windows. I will put a crocodile in your closet when you least expect it.
I love it.
This maid is
That
devious.
is devious.
I will seduce your fiance.
Sands is so distressed by being on this cruise, he shoots a flare up in the air to try and get the attention of the helicopter, only to hit the helicopter, which crashes into the water. At this point, later on, we find out that they survive. But at this point, I'm like, did he just kill people?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that was going to be the plot. The rest of the plot of the movie is him desperate, like talented Mr. Ripleying his way through life, trying to not get busted.
Or
for this one.
Poirot shows up on the boat. Someone on here shot a flare at a helicopter, and
He's going to pin the murder on Roger Moore.
Yeah.
Only one of us has a license to kill.
Ooh, yeah.
Cuba gets returned to his room by Gabriella. He's all drunk. Sands is ranting and raving. Cuba falls on top of Sands, making Gabriella, of course, again. Oh, they can't keep their hands off each other.
They're so in love.
Anyway,
they have so much chemistry together when they're not in bed. So you know that they're also they can't keep their hands off each other. Yeah.
There are a lot of scenes like the next one where Roger Moore comes on to Horatio Sands at breakfast, where I'm like, Roger, you could do better than this guy. What are you doing?
The joke, I think, is that he is what is colloquially known as a chubby chaser. And they're basically, and if that is the case, they are recycling a joke from the Ritz, the Terrence McNally farce, which was turned into a film by Richard Lester, where I believe it's F. Murray Abraham plays a character who spends the entire movie trying to nab Jack Weston, who is actually a mobster who is hiding out in a gay bathhouse.
And that character was Salieri, right? That's the character.
Twist.
He's mad because Mozart gets much hotter guys.
I feel like I haven't.
And he barely tries, and they fall into his lap. What's his secret?
I've definitely seen clips from the Ritz, but I don't think I've seen the whole movie.
Ritz clips.
Yeah.
It's better than this one.
It's amazing how sometimes like a piece of merchandising will outlast the original movie because they still sell Ritz crackers in the grocery stores.
Yeah, it's wild, right?
Stu,
Really took off.
If you haven't seen it, we should put on the Ritz.
Oh, okay. Why not?
Now, I think Alonso, that seems like a very merciful reading of what's going on. It feels to me like the fear of any of these kind of hetero guys in movies is always that gay men will instantly will not be able to let them go. Will be so attracted to them, and it feels like it's some of that joke too, but. It's hard to tell.
And as Horatio's already told us, there's nowhere for him to go.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, that again, great
the
writing. They set up the
hunted.
problem, and now he was the cat, and now he's the mouse.
He's hoisted his own petard,
and there's
not
also
in the sexy way.
Yeah, I don't know what the code for what petard is code for.
They don't even have a handkerchief that color.
No.
Yeah.
You boys should really go down to the petard hoisting room. It's quite a fun time.
And so ironic.
You did bring your own hoist, right?
So at this point, Cuba is convinced he's in love with Gabrielle, even though he's essentially been unconscious all the time he's known her. Meanwhile,
she is the other beautiful woman in the movie, so he has to fall in love with her right away.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there are a bunch of bikini women who have been rescued from the sea. Turns out they're from the crashed helicopter.
Yep.
And
I so wish the way you described it, Dan, it made it seem like they got caught in a tuna net and had to be cut out of the net. I so wish it was something like that.
yeah, they're mermaids in full human form. They're essentially the Swedish bikini team, I guess.
There's some kind of off-brand Swedish bikini team. Was that ever a real thing, or was it just
a
beer
competitive
thing?
suntan thing? Apparently.
Oh, that's right.
In the movie, not the Swedish bikini team was. It was a real thing.
Were they like special forces for Sweden?
Did they have a car wash?
Yeah.
I mean, they existed. Whether it was a real competition, who knows?
Are you asking if Spuds MacKenzie was a real thing?
That's the question. Spuds MacKenzie was not a real competitive surfing dog, you know.
The Olympic Committee is still not committed on this front. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, if breakdancing can be an Olympic event, why not dog surfing? There's nothing in the rule book.
Throwing shade to breakdancing.
I'm actually very excited about the breakdancing competition in this year's Olympics. I think it's going to be really good.
So Sands decides he's creeping all over these girls, instead of saying like he's heterosexual to hit on them, he's going to pretend to be gay for a while so he can see them topless and massage tanning oil into them.
Yeah,
this is
makes
one of our supposed heroes of this film.
And Dan, do you want to talk about the part where he pretends he's having an orgasm so he can squirt suntan lotion jizz all over the back?
I don't want to talk about it. I'm glad
do you want to talk about that?
And he does this pretend O face, which was confusing for me because as I've told you guys over and over, when I orgasm, I say, "Oh my God," like Janice from Friends every time.
Yeah, that's true. You did say that. Dan, do you want to mention how it's shot from below as if you are the prone victim of Horatio Sands' sex?
I don't want to talk about any of it, but unfortunately, I have to talk about
and
what
his ejaculate
next.
For some reason smells like coconut.
It's because of his diet.
Yeah, exactly.
His erection is
and
spotted.
Then it also comes out with a kind of ketchup bottle squirt sound, which is you should talk to a doctor if that's happening.
I don't think that when I introduced the words "his erection," any interruption is allowed.
That we didn't get a splort sound effect like the old Batman TV show was this movie's idea of restraint.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. His erection is spotted by
Dan,
coach.
what do you think it sounds like when Don Martin cartoon characters ejaculate? Like, what's the sound effect for that?
I mean, I think you said it. Does it splort?
What do you splort? Like flubba splort, something like that.
God damn, I miss my calling being like a Don Martin aping like erotic artist.
Now, we're talking about Chester Bester Tester or like Captain Cluck?
Wait, guys,
I don't want to go online and Google Mr. Phone Bone porn comics. But
I just had $1 million idea, and that is
if it's related to Don Martin cartoons, it's probably not $1 million idea.
Yeah.
Well, that was an ironic description anyway.
Oh.
An orgasm soundboard. Just a soundboard, like when you have an orgasm, you can reach over and do like a wacky sound.
I guarantee you something like that exists, Dan.
You can sell that shit to like every shock jock in America.
I was going to say, I think Morning Zoo crews are way ahead of you on this one.
That does remind me. I may have talked about this before in the podcast. I don't remember. My old coworker, James Don, who I worked with at The Daily Show, how he used to, he would set his, when I worked with him and a couple other people in one big room, he would set his computer to play an audio track of sex sounds he had found, and then an audio track of fart sounds he had found, and then just leave the room and leave these playing at the same time.
Jimmy, he's mellowed a little as he's grown older, but yeah,
it's always funny every time. I mean, yeah, but it was always a good way to disrupt everybody else's work.
I want to make it clear: this soundboard, though, would not be for radio use. This would be for actual sexual
for personal
use.
Personal
use
during the act of coitus.
During the act of love.
Yeah, okay, no, that makes sense.
Well, that reminds me of a Reddit board that I saw once I was directed to, where it was very touching. This guy was writing about how his fantasy of having sex with a clown, and everyone was kind of like encouraging him. They were like, "You should do this. You should do this." Yeah. And then a couple weeks later, he wrote about he met someone through the Reddit board. She made his fantasy come true, and she set it up so there were all these little surprises. And when he came at the end, she had a tiny cream pie that she put in his face. And everyone was like, "That's great, that's great." It was such a heartwarming story.
I want that.
I hope there's a bicycle horn in here somewhere.
There must have been.
God, you have done so much for others. Why
did she keep the big shoes on? I have so many questions.
With so many things on the internet, this could just be bullshit, but I want to believe. It could be made up,
but I'd like to believe that dreams do come true occasionally.
Yeah. Anyway, back to, I don't want to say this, but back to Horatio Sands' erection. It is spotted by Lin Shaye, the muscular coach of the bikini team. And she beats him up for creeping on the team.
This was farther than I thought the movie would go, frankly, was to have a character, to have her literally point at his erection through his pants and be like, "What's that all about?" And he goes, "I saw that hot guy over there. That's why." Like, I did not think we were going to have a joke where you actually see someone's erection through their pants. But Boat Trip is all about pushing boundaries. It's like John Waters that way, you know?
Does she slap it like Josh O'Connor and Mike Feist
phone
Challengers? Yeah.
I want to pause on Lin Shaye for a moment because I think she is a legend.
She deserves much better.
This movie maligns in a terrible way. I mean, she made her screen debut in Hester Street, like one of the great indie films of the 1970s. Yeah. And in the Insidious series, she has really gotten the real estate to like create this amazing character. And I'm such a huge fan of her. And I died a little inside every time she appears in this movie and they humiliate her with such relish.
Yeah, I texted Stu and Elliot saying that this movie needs to apologize to Lin Shaye. I mean, it needs to apologize to many
humanity
people,
in general,
the whole world.
But
I feel
especially Lin Shaye.
I feel like some of the blame can be laid at the feet of the Farrelly brothers, because didn't they use her in a similar type of situation in Kingpin?
Yes. And there's something about Mary. And she's game. Like she is clearly going with it and committing to the bit, but the bit is rancid.
It's terrible. Yeah. I mean, by the time later when she's deep throating a baseball bat.
Yes.
You know, it's like, but she similar to Roger Moore. I feel like she gets out of this with her dignity intact because she's so committed to it that you feel like you're seeing a performer doing the role rather than Cuba Gooding Jr. and Horatio Sands are so half-assed that you're like, is this what they're like? Are they really these jerks? And I should mention this is Lin Shaye is amazing, but this is the third movie she's been in that we've covered on the Flophouse.
Wow.
So,
what are the other two?
I mean, one was Critters.
Okay.
And one
was a
good movie.
And she has a small part in Brain Smash or A Love Story. So
also not that bad.
So those were both movies that we kind of liked to a certain extent. So
maybe we'll go 3 for 3. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
I think this is where Ms. Shaye's run
streak ends.
We didn't even mention the fact that this is a movie that is not available normally in any fashion. You can only find it on YouTube that has the subtitle greatest comedy movie ever?
It was like
Is that
Boat Trip, greatest comedy movie ever. It was uploaded by just a random person. We were looking for this, and I could only find the only way to watch it, other than buying an old DVD of it, I guess, is to go on YouTube and look that up. Or there's a German dubbed version that's on
Actually, that would have been really
Daily
great.
Motion or something. And otherwise, this movie is unavailable to stream.
It's been disappeared.
On major platforms.
And
Yeah.
I have a theory. This movie was produced by Brad Cravoy and his company, Motion Picture Corporation of America, who currently makes like those innocuous Hallmark-like Christmas movies on Netflix and produces the hit Hallmark series When Calls the Heart, which is like the sappiest thing on television. So I think maybe he's a little embarrassed that this is part of his past. Just a theory. I don't know anything, but I know that it is not.
Yeah, you don't know anything about Hallmark movies or Christmas movies.
I'm just saying, I don't know if Mr. Cravoy embraces the multitudes he contains or not, but this is definitely not what he's about now.
Yeah.
So later on in the ship casino, Sands, for some reason, is convinced that gay men can't gamble, and he's going to clean up. And
if this is a stereotype I've never heard. That gay men are bad at poker. I've never, and they don't even make any double entendre jokes about poke or anything like that.
Well, the Lady Gaga song hadn't been recorded yet, so people didn't know that we were actually,
amazing at it. Yeah.
And there's a moment in here where
it's amazing that people who, through no fault of their own, often have to hide a major aspect of their lives from the rest of the world, that they're good at keeping a straight face playing cards. Amazing. How can you not know?
What? Gays know how to bluff? What?
There's a moment in here where Jerry, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, wants him to promise that he won't act like a homophobic Neanderthal. And I'm like, you're the guy who fainted when you realized you're on a gay cruise. Like, this is a real turnaround to you to suddenly be like, now let's be sensitive.
Hold on. Yeah.
Be progressive like me.
Yeah, the movie remembered that he's supposed to be the nice guy. Because I imagine the people making this movie thought, when we'll get to Hector's heartfelt speech later, but they thought they were making, I assume, a progressive movie. The same way this movie it lost the Razzie for worst movie for worst director and worst actor to Gigli, another movie that thinks it is saying something progressive, but in actuality is not.
Yeah.
This is the kind of movie that thinks, well, we're not advocating that gay men be rounded up and shot in the street. So, where's my GLAAD award? You know?
I would love it if they had a huge GLAAD award campaign for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the character arc for them is like, oh, gay men are people. Like, wow.
Actual human beings with souls.
We'll get to it later on, but the most charitable viewing of this movie, one that I do not hold, but
I mean, the most charitable viewing was if you screened it for some sort of benefit for GLAAD or something like that. That was very charitable.
No, I don't think that
Look
would
how
be.
far we've come.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that would be a very uncharitable thing to do to the people there.
I mean, you don't. the money goes to GLAAD. No members of the organization have to watch the movie.
And before the movie, you get Orville Peck to come on to play some songs.
There you
great.
go. Make a whole night of it.
Yeah. Well, could the benefit we throw away a copy of Boat Trip for GLAAD?
I mean, I will say,
Anyway.
when the other online movie people, when they destroyed all those copies of Nuki, I was like, hey, that's a bad movie, but that's I don't like the idea of destroying physical pieces of art. If you destroyed every copy of Boat Trip, I'd be fine. There's no reason this needs to exist. Just burn them all.
There was a period of time where people
those who forget the past, man.
That's true. You have one in a museum. It's like a Confederate statue. You keep one in a museum so people can remember the mistakes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you've successfully almost made me forget my point, but it was that the most charitable viewing, again, one I do not hold, would be we are slipping in this message of tolerance in a form that the biggest doofuses would be receptive to it. So
let's make the movie homophobes would find funny, and then we'll slip in a message, and they'll walk out changed.
Yes, but unfortunately, it's Boat Trip. It's horrible. So anyway, Sands, of course, does terribly at poker, but he is connecting with these men through the shared masculine language of poker. So maybe that'll help him change his mind. At one point,
isn't one of the people he's playing poker with is the Slav part of the brain from Herman's Head, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And I believe they're the dealer who at one point calls 3-card Monty, which is not a poker variant. It is a street scam.
Yeah.
But Cuba finally finds Gabriella and immediately falls into the pool again.
Guaranteed laughs every time.
There's nothing funnier than falling in a
Wasn't
pool.
even
Boat
in
Trip
the
understood
script.
it. It's a Wonderful Life understood it. People falling in pools. Funny.
Sands,
Sunset Boulevard understands it.
Especially if they do it 3 times.
Sands
Rule of
finds
threes. Every joke is funnier 3 times.
finds Inga from the bikini team, who, because she is Swedish and loose in her morals, Sands, he's like, it's my understanding from your films that you'll just have sex with anyone, basically, is what he says. And she's like, yeah, if you were straight, I totally would. And he's like, yeah, I'm straight. So they're going to have sex.
This is Miss World Sweden, Victoria Silvstedt, whose name I always think is Silverstedt, but it's not.
And mind you, the idea that Horatio Sands has watched a lot of Swedish erotica feels like a joke from 1973.
Yeah.
Yes,
like this
true.
is 2002. Americans were making plenty of pornography at that point. You didn't have to sit through all of I Am Curious Yellow's political diatribes to see some penetration, you know?
Yeah.
He's like, I saw the Mondo Connie sauna scenes lead me to believe that it is. I mean, I bet you
I have a
that
bunch of
is-
Vinegar Syndrome schoolgirl reports that I've been watching.
I watched Bergman's Summer with Monica, and
it's led me to believe. I think a lot of this is you have to lay at the feet of Mort Nathan. I assume that
Yes.
he is not. He is working off the frame of reference of an older person.
Yeah.
Who's making this movie.
they made him cut all the Nixon jokes.
But while Sands is busy buying condoms, Lin Shaye as the coach
An actual
comes
funny
in.
joke, by the way.
Describe the joke. Tell us about the joke.
So, okay, Horatio Sands goes into like the shop on the cruise ship and says, "Do you guys have any condoms?" And every single person in the scene, customer and clerk alike, pulls out a different kind of condom because you know what? It was 2002 and gays were all wearing them a lot.
Yeah.
Even that funny joke has an undercurrent of tragedy to it.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, sure, but I mean, so does this movie.
Yeah. Fair point. Fair. Yeah.
Lin Shaye is like, you can't be trusted in this room with a minibar, Inga, because you eat too much to be on this bikini team, which led to a scene I never expected to see, which is Lin Shaye grabbing Victoria Silvstedt's bikini butt over and over, calling her fatty as she pushes her out of the room.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's a cool another layer of bad messaging of this movie.
Okay,
The movie
so
gets it when the Lin Shaye scenes. I feel like the movie reaches a heightened level of kind of like extreme. I don't know exactly how to put it. It feels like in those moments the movie gets like harsher and weirder and rougher in a way that I did not expect from a studio.
I'm like, I don't feel safe now.
Yes, yeah. And if this was there's a movie, I feel like there's a movie where Lin Shaye is doing that same character in that same performance, but the whole movie is pitched that way, and it's a very camp movie, for lack of a better word, and that would make more sense to me. It feels like she's doing a camp role in a movie that is not a camp movie.
Well, yeah, like they can't decide, is she the sort of like traditional, dykey coach that's like, tormenting all of her young charges, or is she a horny old broad,
Yeah.
and like it's whatever she needs to be in the moment to do something that is offensive or outrageous.
yes.
And so they're just kind of just stringing along these, as with everything else in this movie, a bunch of dumb stereotypes in the thought that anyone is going to find this amusing.
I did find that very confusing because it was like, okay, so this is very much a butch lesbian stereotype, and yet she's also like chasing Horatio Sands, like she's in a Tex Avery cartoon or something.
If the movie had been about Horatio
Go
Sands, before he gets on the trip, he's like, "Oh, I'll get some new sunblock." He accidentally picks up radioactive sunblock from a laboratory experiment that the Axe body spray people have been doing. They're like, the attractiveness level of this body spray, this sunblock, is just too powerful. We can't let it out in the public, but it gets out by accident, like a inner space type scenario. And now everyone is chasing after him. That would make more sense in this. Maybe it's a cut scene.
Yeah, it's probably
Yeah.
cut out.
And that's why Lin
Turn it
Shaye and
to
Roger
love.
Moore can't keep their eyes off him,
Love Potion number 9.
There's also a smarter movie in which it turns out that all of Horatio Sands' egregious skirt chasing is a cover for his own nascent homosexuality that he discovers while taking the boat trip. But nobody wanted to make that movie, at least not this crowd.
The movie faints at that briefly.
It faints in that direction. Yeah, not the way Cuba Gooding Jr. fainted, but it seems like it's going to be that movie, and then the movie is like, I don't think so.
Wait, is this when he goes back to his new friend's room?
I'll tell you exactly where we are in the plot, Stuart. Thank you for redirecting us.
Dan's the captain of this ship, and Stuart is the navigator.
I'm the mate.
Cuba and Gabrielle
He's the bosun.
Are bonding some because she thinks he's gay. She's comfortable enough to tell him he has a hot ass, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so tired of being around hetero men who are always hitting on me, and I don't have to worry about that. And it's great to be on a gay cruise. And if I get horny, maybe I can find a gay man to do me the quote favor of screwing my brains out," which is not, I think, how it works, but it does convince Cuba to keep up this charade in the hopes that he can be said,
also,
penis of utility.
There's this thing called bisexuals movie.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
I feel like if you told anyone working on this movie that was a thing that existed, they would be shocked. They would faint the way that people are going to do. They'd be like, "What?
Wait, it's not just hot women?"
Their head would start overheating. They'd start making a noise like a computer fan that's been running for too long,
and they'd have to fall in the pool to cool down.
Yeah.
So
hilarious.
Returning to the low comedy of Horatio Sands.
So you're saying this is a classic structure of high comedy story, low comedy story that parallel each other. Okay,
exactly.
Like Much
Horatio,
Ado About Nothing.
Yeah.
Thinking he's performing cunnilingus on Inga. He is instead going down on Lin Shaye, who clamps her thighs onto him like Xenia Onitop in Goldeneye. Mm-hmm. And she rides him to completion, and he's only able to get her off by spraying her with a fire extinguisher so that when all the other girls burst into the room, it looks like smoke is coming from between her legs, and Inga says, "Her pussy exploded." So that's a thing that's in the movie Boat Trip.
What is this movie? Yeah. It's also, and this is a boat where all the doors are open all the time. They're unlocked all the time. And this classic farce thing of somebody walking into a dark room, not realizing the person they expect to be there is not there, and just not bothering even to double check. It's
happened to me so many fucking times.
On land, Vivica
also
Fox.
A cruise that had enough unbooked cabins to accommodate the Swedish bikini team after their helicopter crash.
This was. I wish there was a scene where they're like, "This is the final year of this cruise. We cannot. We're just not getting enough passengers."
Back on land, Felicia / Vivica A. Fox seems dissatisfied with her new boyfriend, stares wistfully at a photo of her in Cuba that's still in her home. Meanwhile...
That's a bold move to break up with somebody and still have the studio portrait you took with them just sitting on the table.
I'm scared.
Yeah, it's like confirmation of your kill.
Skimming over a little...
What was the reason? Was it just that he seems like a dumb guy? What was the reason that she was suddenly off him?
I don't know. Do we really need to get into it?
He's bad at detailing cars, apparently, because he can't control the buffer.
He's like buffing a car, and then she not quite flashes him because she's wearing a nightie underneath, and he loses control of it. And she takes this very clear scene that he is sexually attracted to her as like, got to get rid of him. No, thank you.
Ixnay.
I'm just gonna skim over some stuff. Cuba enlists Horatio in the scam to keep acting gay so he can woo Gabrielle, which is dumb, but these are two idiots, so I believe it on that level.
Yeah, this is the Chuck and Larry portion of the movie.
There's a dance scene where, Sands cuts loose, dances a little bit more, seems momentarily interested in maybe being Roger Moore's sugar baby until his homophobia wins out. They hang out some more, blah, blah, blah.
Is this the scene where he and that guy share that bottle of Louis XIII, which is one of many similarities between this movie and the holdovers?
Stuart's been trying to get to this scene for a long time.
There's the scene in here I mentioned before where Sands tries to get back to Inga and is intercepted by Lin Shaye, who deep throats baseball bat.
By way of saying that she can please him as well. It doesn't have to be just a one-way thing. And it's one of these things where it's like, Horatio, I know you've got your eye on this bikini model, but this is exactly what you wanted when you signed on to this cruise.
True.
You wanted to find a single woman who wanted nothing more than to have sex with you. It's being offered to you on an open platter. Like, well, go for it.
And is she quite possibly the only woman on Earth who would find his oral skills satisfactory?
That's implied by the movie.
I honestly don't believe that character is that unselfish a lover, frankly.
No, and also later on he talks about how he's only had sex once, so he's never done that before, probably. So unless he's the Mozart of cunnilingus, and he's just a natural born prodigy.
We can only assume that.
And Salieri is fuming.
In comes F. Murray Abraham in a towel.
Salieri is like, it takes me so much longer to get women off, and I'm trying really hard. I read books on it. Mozart, he barely even tries this first time.
We can only assume that it's because she clamps so hard onto his face that he's screaming for help, and that is, like
add some vibration.
The vigorous, There's a really long scene of Cuba Gooding Jr. and Gabriella dancing sexy
This goes
together.
on
It goes
forever.
on so
At a certain point, you are just watching two actors dance with no character to it and no scene to it, and it's like, so the movie
everything
wasn't long
falls
enough.
away,
That's what you're
right,
telling
Elliot?
me.
Everything, all artifice just
Yeah.
falls away, and you were left with two bodies moving
with
in
art.
rhythm.
Artifice falls away, and there's just art.
Yeah, you're right. You know what? That's true. If I follow the rules I set in my Nuki presentation years ago, this is this just seeing two people existing on film. No longer characters, no longer in a scene, but just being the characters they are, just dancing. You know what? This is art. You know what? Boat Trip's a great movie now that we talk about it. Yeah.
In the same way that Fred and Ginger weren't having sex, they just took it to the floor,
Exactly. They're not particularly great dancers, I think is part of the issue.
We should mention.
Is that when Cuba Gooding Jr. and Rosalind Sanchez are dancing, they're not it's not funny like bad dancing. It's just kind of, it looks like you're just watching two people at a wedding. Like there's nothing going on. And it's not like the scene in, is it God's Country? Is that the Louis Malle documentary where you're watching this small wedding and people are dancing and there's something kind of profound about just existing in the moment of this kind of rural wedding? It's not that. You're just watching two idiots, just dancing, and that's it. That's it.
Around this point, Sands has a conversation with Hector about how he's finally seeing gay men as full human beings, but he still feels weird about hanging out with them, which makes him realize that maybe he's a jerk. And Hector talks about his coming out and how his dad eventually accepted and loved him, and his dad wasn't a jerk, and neither is Sands. I'm like, I don't know about Sands.
I mean, he is a jerk. Even setting aside the homophobia, the rest of his personality, he's a jerk.
Yeah. Gabriella and Jerry take some undefined drugs, and she wants him to show her how to get
a gay cruise?
better head with a banana, and he's too homophobic to even blow a piece of fruit. So he asks her to show her technique. This is now the second actress who performs fellatio on an object in the movie Boat Trip.
Okay, so I gotta give this character a hot tip. If a woman you're interested is like, show me some sexual stuff, just fucking do it, dude. Just like go nuts. Because he behaves as if like if he were to take his wiener out, he would be like I don't know, I don't even want to look at it. Like wiener. I don't know. It's very strange to me.
Also, peel the banana.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor here.
I mean, this would be a funny joke if she's like, show me what to do on this. And he's like, and he unpeels it and then cuts it up and puts it in some cereal. Like,
so anyway, I just need to get through this next thing because it is
all right, just do it. No one's stopping you.
Insane.
So anyway,
Jerry is so overcome with horniness seeing this that she's like, where'd you go? And cut to him in the stateroom bathroom. He's sticking his dick out the window. And then cut to a man downstairs talking to Roger Moore saying, for goodness sake, Lloyd, just kiss me first. And he has cum on his face.
He gets hit.
We are to believe that Cuba has ejaculated out the window onto an unsuspecting man.
Now, let's look at the physics of this. So he felt he could not go into the bathroom, a place where things that come out of your penis often end up and can be taken away. He had to go to a porthole
in your house, maybe
stick his penis out of the porthole. Again, luckily this is not the porthole of time, and his penis doesn't show up in 17th century France for Robespierre to oppress
kill a butterfly.
Now, if the ship is traveling forward at 250 knots per hour,
that's true. Dan, what if he had stuck his dick out? It's the portal of time. He ejaculates on a butterfly. Everything changes. I couldn't tell if it was that like the wind caught it and brought it back around into another room on the ship.
Dude.
That's what happens.
Yeah, there were like Yeah, it got
I guess
caught
I thought
by
it
the
was just
wind.
on like the platform below. They're out on the deck, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's
okay,
also
that's assuming the boat isn't moving at all, though, because I think there's going to be there's wind and drag involved here.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
And
you
not
want
the
the
kind of
camera
drag we'll be getting later in the movie.
You wanted a shot where the camera took the jizz eye view, and we get to follow the jizz.
Yeah,
Sort of like the
like a
beginning of
hardcore
Forrest
Harry
Gump.
type. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
like a Forrest Gump with the feather, but it's just
Yeah.
jizz
I mean, if
floating
With
that
in
was-
the
one,
air.
if that
one
was-
flute on the soundtrack.
If that was jizz instead of a feather in Forrest Gump, it'd be a very different movie. I don't see it winning Best Picture. But the,
Brave stance.
That's Forrest Pump, the
Yeah.
he's jizzing into chocolates and then serving them to people, and
boy.
but also that when he says, "Oh, buy me a meal, dinner first," or something like that, like. So you're having me believe three things. One, even on a gay cruise, it is unpleasant to be surprised by having ejaculate.
Wait,
it
you're
hit you.
surprised by that,
Well,
or
no,
you're
no. I think like the idea that he's so nonchalant about
accepting?
it.
Yeah,
But also that was Roger Moore supposed to have ejaculated out of his nose? Like he's standing next to you, fully
I would
clothed,
say
and it
that's
lands on
the
your
thing.
face.
Two fully dressed men. Where does he think that came from exactly?
If I was on a cruise, yeah. If I was on a cruise, I would
As
assume
it
that the joke should have been that he thought a seagull pooped on him or something like that. Like that's something that happens on cruises. That would make sense to me. But I
Or
don't know.
maybe he
Or
thought
there'd
a
been a
fucking
poolside orgy 15 feet away,
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Or a seagull jizzed on him. Do they
or
do
seagull
that?
just
No,
yeah. Seagulls
look.
have needs too.
Boat Trip wants it to be absolutely clear to you that this is Jerry's cum on this man's face. And it wants you to laugh and laugh and laugh at this fact.
Everyone should have had the Gallagher poncho on because they were clearly in the splash
Yeah.
zone.
Anyway,
But it is a weird choice to ejaculate out of a porthole
I
rather
guys,
than
I got-
say into a tissue.
And to
I
think
gotta
that the
admit-
guy
Or
next
the
to
toilet.
you wearing pants did it to you.
Yes, yeah.
I gotta
Yeah.
admit, I had to rewind and rewatch this sequence again just to make sure that I actually saw what I thought.
The
I saw.
storytelling is
Yeah.
also not clear. Like it's not well edited.
Yeah, yeah.
Not
George
well
Miller
shot.
didn't put this together.
Oh, it would have been George Miller. It would have been all shots that are less than a second long, like half a second, and it would have been so clear and exciting. You'd know
Yeah.
exactly what was happening. It would be centered in the middle of the frame, no matter how much motion was going on around it. Oh, what a great filmmaker!
Also,
You know, what a
how
master.
bad is sex with Cuba Gooding Jr. if all he has to do is watch a woman mime fellatio on a banana and he comes in 2 seconds? Hands
good
free.
point.
Yeah,
a
oh
good
yeah. He's not even.
point.
His hands are like braced on the sides of the wall, right? As if he's worried that the force of the ejaculate will propel him backwards, like firing a gun on the moon, or
Or
something
he's
like
going to
that.
go
Yeah.
out the porthole crotch first if he's not careful.
Yeah.
Anyway, Stuart, this is we've finally gotten to the senior.
Anyway,
Oh,
happy
thank
Pride
you.
Month,
Desperately.
everybody.
Yeah,
Happy-
woo! LGBT visibility, everybody.
Horatio's hanging out with one of his new friends in their stateroom. They drink too much.
Of Louis the 13th, a
Now-
very fancy booze.
Okay, yeah. What is this type of
the
alcohol?
king,
Stuart?
the king who is king.
You seem very
When,
is it?
concerned
It's
with.
when
a
I was
fucking-
talking about
it's like
Cuban
a-
Jr.'s penis going through the porthole too.
There was a time, like, it used to be like the fanciest of fancy. I think it's a cognac.
Okay.
But it's
You
like
remember-
used to be the fanciest of fancies.
Remember the bottle of cognac that Paul Giamatti steals at the end of the holdovers?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what
It's
I'm
that
saying.
kind of thing.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
this is
It's
this
one
is,
of many
and these
similarities
numbnuts are
between
doing
this
shots
and,
of it. Like this
I mean,
seems.
the holdovers is basically
Practically
just
a remake. Yeah.
yeah, just
Yeah.
boat trip. You know.
Mhm.
Anyway, he wakes up in this man's bed, which causes him to scream and run back to his own room. And he admits that he hasn't had sex since high school. With
I will say this sequence is less upsetting than the sequence in Ace Ventura when he finds out he's slept
Oh,
with.
good
Yes,
lord.
well, that's when he finds out he just was kissed by someone who
Yeah.
Yeah, he
was
well.
trans, I guess.
Yes.
I guess we
God.
stepped over that low bar, but he.
So,
He,
so you're
uh,
saying in the 10 years between Ace Ventura and Boat Trip, there had been
Yeah.
a minimal amount.
Small.
A
amount of
millimeter's
progress.
progress.
he is now wondering whether he is gay, and instead of following up on this dramatic thread, we immediately cut away to Gabrielle, who's showing Jerry around some Grecian island, and while they're ashore, Felicia Vivica A. Fox appears, having tracked him down, gets on the boat unbeknownst to him.
Has
You can't just
tracked
do
him
that,
down
man.
found the boat, gets on the boat, also doesn't know it's a gay cruise.
I was about to say, also clueless about the nature of this cruise.
The people in Clueless had more of a clue than these characters.
I would argue that many of the characters in Clueless have plenty of clues.
Because it's a murder mystery.
Now, what about Without a Clue? The Michael Caine. Anyway, Inga says goodbye to Nick/Horatio Sands, inviting him to come to Sweden and have sex with her anytime. But he's got a new, gayer attitude, and he's like, I don't care anymore. And this leads his buddy to be like, we didn't actually have sex, which immediately ends him questioning his sexuality, and he sends him running after
he's like,
Inga.
if I can't score a hottie like his friend who he just made, which is just like, dude, he's way out of your league, Horatio Sands.
I would believe that Horatio Sands is so not in touch with his own feelings and emotions that he doesn't even know what type of human being he's attracted to until someone tells him, basically.
And there's a scene here where Roger Moore and Hector lament losing this doofus to heterosexuality. And that rang less than true to me, that they would be disappointed.
What a loss for everyone.
Yeah.
I think they say like he could have been one of the best or something like that.
What are the rankings these days? Anyway, Gabrielle kisses Cuba beneath a tree, and she apologizes for maybe pushing him into something he doesn't want to do. And he's like, whatever, let's do it. And they fuck so hard, a bunch of oranges fall from the tree.
Not just a bunch, a fucking mountain of oranges.
They are neck deep in oranges. It covers their entire bodies, thus making the movie PG-13. What? I don't know, but it is a
perfect grocery store pyramid.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Now that he got that confidence nut out the fucking porthole, he's got plenty of stamina to knock all those fruits off the tree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But right after that, immediately afterward, she's regretful because there's no future for them, and she needs some time alone. And she goes back to the boat where she meets Vivica A. Fox in the elevator. That's when Vivica A. Fox learns it's a gay cruise. And she's like, what? I came here to get back with my boyfriend. What's going on? And someone in the dancing stage show is too sick to dance. So
only one option.
Too sick to dance sounds like it could be like a 30s backstage musical.
Yeah. Jerry subs in, I'm not sure why, because he hasn't.
You're going out there a chorus boy, but you've got to come back a star.
but I'm too sick to dance. There's only one cure for you. That's tapping your feet.
He puts on a.
Call in the dance doctor. I'm prescribing two. Actually, this sounds like the scene in the musical that the backstage musical is about.
Yeah.
It's like, Doc, I'm sick. I'm prescribing 2 dancing feet and call me in the morning. And then they sing a song about, the best medicine or something.
At a sold out house.
Your feet are too sad.
It all devolves into Busby Berkeley geometric patterns of women on the floor anyway. So it doesn't really matter what the song's about.
Jerry dons a gold headdress, mesh gold chain top and shorts, and he does the dance. And
bad though, dude.
Yeah, he's not great, but you see his little butt at one point.
What song was it?
I'm Coming Out.
I'm Coming Out. That's right.
Because
this is after earlier in the movie.
Out a porthole.
He learned how to pretend to be gay.
Out a porthole. That's the parentheses.
Yeah.
I'm coming out.
Parentheses.
A porthole.
Of a porthole.
Feet. Cuba Gooding Jr.'s sperm.
Yeah.
And this is after earlier in the movie when he learning how to be gay basically just meant learning the lyrics to "I Will Survive." That was pretty much it.
Because again, this movie's really just got its finger on the gay pulse.
The gay men of 2003, they could not get enough of "I Will Survive."
This, of course, convinces Felicia all the more that he's gay. They have a confrontation about how she wants him back, where he makes a lot of talk to the hand gestures.
To be fair to Felicia, if I was tracking down my ex-boyfriend to get him back, I found out he was on a gay cruise and he was performing in drag, performing the song "I'm Coming Out." It would be hard to convince me that he wasn't actually gay. Yeah.
If you were doing that, I would think that you would already know that he was gay.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, if I was in a relationship with this person and I didn't have a feeling that they were gay, and then I suddenly found them in this situation, and I didn't suddenly have flashbacks to many, many incidents where I should have realized it, that's on me then at that point.
It doesn't feel like a jump to conclusions, let's say.
Yeah, like my
which
wife
role are
is
you going to
aware.
be, Elliot? Are you the Vivica A. Fox character?
I'm the Vivica A. Fox in this situation.
Because I was going to say, I kind of feel like you could pull off that Cuba outfit he's wearing there with the headpiece and all the chains.
I'd be lying if I said the thought didn't pass through my head that I could pull it off if I really tried.
I was saying that you, Elliot Kalin, would presumably already know that your boyfriend was gay.
If I have a boyfriend, yes.
Yeah.
It would be, I would be very
shocked. That would be the
shocked.
first.
Elliot, hear me out. The gold lame, peacock feather ensemble, but we add a Carmen Miranda fruity headdress.
I mean, the only thing that I don't like about that is I hate fruit, don't want to be near it, don't like to eat it, don't like to touch it or smell it. But otherwise, I think it'd be great. I think it's a great look. Yeah.
What if it's wax?
Okay, yes, then 100,000% yes. But I was
how
going to say,
how about instead of that, it's like ham and chicken, fried chicken.
if it was a Carmen Miranda headdress of just Popeye's fried chicken, then yes. The only problem is I'm going to keep trying to eat it while I'm dancing, and also the hot grease that's flowing down my head, which would be very distracting.
Although I'm now thinking about a Carmen Miranda headdress with the centerpiece is the Colonel's bucket, and I think that could really work.
It's kind of off angle, just slightly.
Yeah.
That's a solid
a saucy kilter,
Yeah.
That's a solid main stage look on an episode of Drag Race. Category is franchise restaurants.
I'm presenting herbs and spices realness with this one.
look at Elliot.
Sexy Wendy's.
I was going to say earlier, my wife is so good at recognizing that I am annoyed at her before it even occurs to me that I'm annoyed at her about something, that the idea that Vivica A. Fox does not know her boyfriend might be gay is she's just, they don't have a great relationship. I guess that's really what it is. They don't listen.
I mean, I feel like it's pretty clear.
Well, anyway, he yells a lot about how he's not gay and how he pretended just to be with this girl.
Classic joke, setting up the greatest joke in movies, right?
Yeah, he does a literal, she's right behind me, isn't she? And at that point, I throw my television out the window.
SCTV style.
I pluck my eyes out, hurl them into a meat grinder, puncture my eardrums with knitting needles.
Yeah, and I have blessed peace.
What a terrible, oh man. In 2002. In 2002, they're doing that joke.
And Felicia's Mia. It seems like we both had our fling. I'm willing to overlook yours if you'll overlook mine, and we can get married. And there's a genuinely surprising smash cut to some wedding photos being taken of the two of them. It turns out they are not married just yet. These are, pre-wedding photos.
Yeah.
Well, there's both times.
Yeah.
You say it as if it's obvious.
Yeah. People often take photos before the ceremony. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and after though, I'm saying.
And before.
Afterwards, anarchy breaks out.
Oh God.
So really,
Anyway, point is, they're not married yet. We meet Felicia's father.
After the wedding, the dress is too covered in chicken blood from the end of the ceremony, so they can't. Yeah.
Felicia's father is.
I don't even know what stereotype I'm leaning into.
I don't know
that idea.
But I just want to get out the sentence. Felicia's father is played by Richard Roundtree. Totally wasted in this role.
He does almost nothing. He's barely in the movie.
And I want to point out that Richard Roundtree played played a gay character on the short-lived TV show Rock, ROC, which was a very big deal at the time. I mean, it was a one-episode thing, but it was like, ooh, Shaft is playing a gay guy. Like, he was one of the first sort of traditionally, famous for playing a big macho character actors to then be like, and yes, I'm now playing a gay guy on this TV show.
Yeah. And he's like, I got my eye on you, which doesn't, it seems like it might pay off, but doesn't. We'll get there.
It doesn't at all. And also the fact that he is best known as Shaft, and this is a movie that should be full of dick jokes, also didn't do anything right.
Interesting.
Shaft and balls, they're cops.
See, that sounded sarcastic. Linda Holmes, that sounded sarcastic, but I did like that joke. During the wedding, the officiant, played by Thomas Lennon, is distracted by his wife running off with someone else, which briefly confused me because he has a clerical collar, which I associate with Catholicism, but apparently Anglicans, Methodists, Presbyterians, Lutherans, not all ministers.
No, let's get in the weeds on this one.
But they often do wear clerical. I mean, Reverend Lovejoy on The Simpsons wears a clerical collar, and he's married.
Yeah, but
he's a cartoon, Elliot.
I mean,
you're right. I forgot the Pope said that cartoon priests can get married.
Believe that Protestantism is something that I know a little bit more about, and that is this is not actually common unless you are relatively close to.
Well, maybe for big showy events like weddings, they pull out all the stops.
Mm-hmm. And Thomas Lennon looks like a baby. He looks so young in this.
Yes.
And it's a very, and it feels like a very unnecessary go-to joke to have the person officiating it also like mad at his wife or mad at some person in his past that he can't stop bringing up. That was a very of the time joke.
So they get to the part about, are there any objections? And the poker buddies from the cruise and Horatio Sands all look cagey until Sands finally speaks up and he says, Jerry needs to be with the person he really loves, and that's me. And he kisses him to cover for saying that he knows where Gabriella is. I guess this is to show that he's overcome his homophobia, but it seems like an unnecessary distraction. He'd just be like, let's go.
Especially since he runs off with Jerry. It's not like that. Like he just say, no, you should be with Gabriella, and I know where she is. Let's go. Like unless he thinks he needs to shock Jerry out of this marriage stupor.
Could be. Also,
well,
they're also high.
And we're also setting up, the remainder of the film in which gay people are useful as long as they're there to assist straight people in their agenda.
Yeah. This is the point where they're like, also, let's run away from the scary dad. The dad does not chase them. There's no payoff for that. They run outside.
I wonder if they hired Richard Roundtree, they cast him, and they were like, and now there's the scene where you're chasing after them, and then you fall into a cake, and he's like, not happening.
You slip on a giant turd.
The bride's dad in Arthur is scarier than this
guy. So they run outside. Hector's fire truck is waiting to speed them away to a prop plane where Roger Moore makes a big speech about his military service, proving that I guess that gay people are valuable because they can also be butch. I don't know.
He's actually playing folks in this movie, which no one knows. But that's a Roger Moore deep cut for anybody who wanted that one.
And
there's one moment in this where they're in the fire truck and the siren is going, and then we see that a police officer has also stopped traffic, I guess, that they can go faster. And Hector arranged with him, and he's, I guess, also a gay police officer. And there's a brief moment of if this movie, I could see this movie turning into an Invasion of the Body Snatchers type thing, where Cuba Gooding Jr. and Horatio Sands are just learning how many people around them are gay in positions of authority and power, and they're like, "What? Oh, what?"
There is an organization for gay cops and firemen called Guns and Hoses. Thank you. I'm not making that up.
That's
it's a real
amazing.
thing.
What a great name. So they parachute onto the new cruise where Gabriella is working, which, of course, by the rules of screenwriting symmetry, is a lesbian cruise. They drop into the pool. Again, symmetry. He declares his love.
Good writing. Dan, it's called good writing. Someone read Sid Field.
It's great fucking writing, man.
They saved the cat, man.
That cat was saved. Dan, answer me. Is the cat saved or is it not saved?
I don't recall a cat. We did see a movie about a cat on a boat, but it was like a mutant cat.
Yeah, that cat did not get saved.
Cat?
I've seen that one. But the dog is saved and wearing an adorable tuxedo.
Yeah.
Aww.
Love it.
So she's like, you lied your way into my bed, but because this is a terrible movie with bad attitude, she forgives him.
He does kiss her before she can finish talking. So he wins.
Roger Moore and the lesbians understandably shake their heads in dismay at all of this. Last scene in the movie.
We're always chasing the numbers,
Yeah.
they're like, I don't get it. And they're like, well, I mean, it just, I don't even understand the joke because it's like the idea that I don't get what hetero people see each other. It's just human attraction. It's not
we haven't all grown up surrounded by them or anything.
Well, that's the thing. I don't get it. This the mainstream monoculture that I've had to swim in my entire life.
I choose to read it as a specific reaction to these two idiots.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fair.
Sure. I think the audience shares that then.
But then I don't. Then it's inconsistent with Roger Moore, who has done everything he can to help this happen, and is like, I don't get it. Seems like it's doomed to me.
Now, when he gazes upon the results of his work, he's despondent.
Yeah, he's like Oppenheimer.
What have I done?
I've become death, bringer together of idiots.
Look upon my works and despair.
When he's surrounded by all the cheering people at the wedding, and he's like, "Oh my God, are they monsters? What's happening?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Horatio Sands, remember him? He's scaling a snowy mountain, yelling "Inga, Inga!" He's taken in by her family into this cottage, only to learn that
they live in an alpine cottage that seems to be from another century. Yeah,
and on the very peak of a mountain.
Like the end of Lost Horizon.
Yeah. He learns that he has missed Inga. She's in Italy right now, but not to worry. Her equally hot younger sister is there. But so is Lin Shaye. Credits.
Man.
Credits to the movie. Boat Trip.
I always love it when a movie sets up a sequel perfectly. So we have what? Ski Trip? Is Ski Trip going to be the sequel?
Sure, yeah. That's
and
Gondola Trip.
The closing credits are Comic Sans, which is perfect because A, it's the laziest font on Mashable, and B, it's Horatio Sands.
I wish the movie was Sands.
Not very Comic Sans.
So,
I will go on record as saying that the only time I've ever laughed at Horatio Sands was one time when I was in the audience of a UCB screening of a UCB movie in the old UCB theater, and Horatio Sands, trying to sneak into a seat since the lights had gone down, stepped on a soda can really loudly and went, "Oh shit!" And that's the only time I've ever laughed at anything he's ever done.
Well, since we're getting into judgments, let's do our final judgments about whether this is a good bad movie, a bad movie, or a movie you kind of like. I want to read a couple of quotes from the Wikipedia page.
One from receipts for Boat
One
Trip.
from Roger Ebert, who wrote, "This is a movie made for nobody about nothing." And Wikipedia also says, quote, many viewed the film as homophobic, although a reviewer for The Advocate wrote that the film was too terrible to protest. So I guess,
And who was that reviewer for The Advocate?
I don't know if I was that reviewer, but I was definitely the editor of that review because I was working at The Advocate at that time. And I went to see this movie at a press screening. It was me and another critic who is now retired, but also gay. He spent the entire film groaning through the movie and then gave it kind of a positive review. I don't know why.
It was groaning in pleasure through the movie, yeah.
Perhaps,
yeah.
Thankfully, there was no porthole in that screening room.
My final judgment is this is an awful movie. I most of the time we watch these movies sort of vaguely hoping, maybe we'll find something that we actually sort of enjoyed, or at least something that can be enjoyed ironically, if not normally. I don't know what normally is, for its own merits, I guess. But in this case, I just want to take revenge on this movie for I had to, obviously I did the summary. I had to take notes on it. It was such slow going, and I kept looking at the time and being like, how is it possible? Like, it was just 30 minutes. I'm just 30 minutes in. Now I'm just 31 minutes in. It seems like an hour's passed.
Yeah.
So that's my feelings on Boat Trip. What do you think, Stuart?
So another rave from Dan. Let's see. No, this is terrible. I wouldn't watch it. Don't watch it. Don't seek it out. It's cursed. It'll make you feel worse about everything. Don't do it. It's bad. Bad movie.
Elliot, we'll leave Alonso the last word.
I mean, it's hard for me not to go along and just say it's the worst movie. It's everything about it is super dispiriting. I mean, the only thing that makes this not the worst movie I've ever seen is that there's no on-camera animal mutilation or anything like that. Like, it's not a cannibal Holocaust movie. Yeah. Like, nobody died in the making of it, as far as I know. So those are the two wins in the victory column for Boat Trip.
There are parameters,
Yeah. I will say that the Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character is named Jerry Robinson, and I feel like this is the least accurate portrayal of the co-creator of the Joker, Jerry Robinson, that you could imagine.
Okay.
But yeah, this is a very bad movie. I know there are people who watch every movie that we do on the show. There's one fan who collects copies of all the movies that we've done on this podcast. Please don't. This one, just leave it at the Island of Misfit Movies. Don't include it in your house. Alonso, disagree with me. I dare you.
Yes, I'm here to fight you all. No, this is of course a bad movie. But what I think is so fascinating about it is where it occurs in the culture, in the history of everything, because The rating system ends in the 60s. And so suddenly now you can have queer characters in movies and queer themes. And that usually meant that we got like embarrassing, offensive, or violent or monstrous characters because most people making movies at the time were still, cis-het, straight white men. And so now we get to the 90s and you've got the decade kicks off with Poison and Paris is Burning, both winning the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance. That's followed by this whole wave, the new queer cinema, Gus Van Sant, Gregor Rocky, Cheryl Dunye, Chartier, Rose Trochet, all these filmmakers making really fascinating and insightful films and very specifically and unapologetically queer. And then that leads to these sort of crossover movies where it's like, hey, there are queer people who are starving to see movies. There's also cool, like, art house straight people who will come see them as well. So we'll make charming rom-coms like, Jeffrey and Trick or whatnot. And so after that decade, to then
like the Day Trippers or something.
Yes, exactly. Like after that decade to think, you know what people really want to see? This wacky bullshit about two straight guys on a wah-wah gay cruise. Oh, no. And it just feels so
I feel like you're pitching the movie right now, Alonso. That's the pitch, yeah.
It feels
Sound effects make me like it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I've got my orgasm soundboard.
Yeah, dancing soundboards, yeah.
It feels so displaced in time that I had not seen this since that press screening, and I will probably never see it again. But it was just this fascinaning moment of like, y'all, like some movies you look back and think, oh, well, that was the time. That's what people thought you could get away with. No, we were well past this by the time this movie came out. And this was just a handful of straight people being like, nope, we're going to be here. We are determined to still tell this story and make these jokes. Damn the rest of the world and whatever progress might have been made. So it's just astonishingly unstuck in time.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it still came out 4 years before I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry.
True. But that movie, I don't know if you know the whole history there, but like that started out as an Alexander Payne, Jim Taylor joint. And their screenplay was actually pretty smart and, insightful. And then of course it goes through the Adam Sandler sausage factory and becomes the movie that it is.
Yeah.
It really is a sausage factory.
I'm Sequoia Holmes, pop culturist and host of the Black People Love Paramore podcast. Contrary to the title, it is not a podcast about the band Paramore. Each episode, I, along with a special guest co-host, dissect one pop culture topic that mainstream media doesn't associate with Black people, but we know that we like. Tune in every Thursday to the podcast that's dedicated to helping Black people feel more seen, here on Maximum Fun.
I'm Yucky Jessica.
I'm Chuck Crudsworth.
And this is Terrible,
a podcast where we talk about things we hate that are awful.
Today we're discussing Wonderful, a podcast on the Maximum Fun Network.
Hosts Rachel and Griffin McElroy, a real-life married couple,
Yuck.
discuss a wide range of topics: music, video games, poetry, snacks.
But I hate all that stuff.
I know you do, Yucky Jessica.
It comes out every Wednesday, the worst day of the week, wherever you download your podcasts.
For our next topic, we're talking Fiona, the baby hippo from the Cincinnati Zoo.
I hate this little hippo.
The Flophouse is sponsored in part by Squarespace, the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. I probably mostly said that correctly. Well, whether you're just starting out or whether you're managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place, all on your terms. All on your terms. Don't let someone else set the terms that you're going to sell your time or engage with your audience. You got to set those terms, buddy. I'm sorry for calling you buddy. We don't really know one another that well. Personalize your website with the Squarespace Blueprint, which is their new guided design system. You can pick from a curated layout and styling options to build your online presence from the ground up, tailored to your brand and optimized for every device. Make checkout seamless for your customers with their powerful payment tools. Accept credit cards, PayPal, and Apple Pay. And in eligible countries, you can let customers buy now and pay later with Afterpay and ClearPay. Sell products and services with an online store? Well, buddy, I did it again. Whether it's physical goods, digital content, or services, Squarespace has the tools to start selling online. So why not go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you are ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/flop to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And We also have a Jumbotron. This is from Daniel Pecoraro Historical Tours. Since 2021, Daniel Pecoraro has shown New Yorkers and tourists alike the past, present, and possible futures of various neighborhoods across New York. From Gowanus to Greenwood to Greenwich Village, Daniel's tours are perfect for lifelong New Yorkers, recent arrivals, or visitors who just want to go deep. Flophouse listeners may particularly enjoy the Lost Theaters of Bay Ridge, highlighting the many former movie houses in this Southwest Brooklyn neighborhood. That does sound very interesting. I am sad that Elliot Kalin is not here while I'm recording this ad copy. I had to do a little after the fact, a little secret for you, because I think he in particular would be interested in the Lost Theaters of Bay Ridge. So anyway, if you're interested in this, why not visit www.history.works to learn more and register, and use code FLOP for half off any upcoming tour. And speaking of flop, the Flophouse, that's our podcast. Hello, how you doing? We are doing a live show in Boston, Massachusetts. There's a Boston, Massachusetts now. And we're doing a show at WBUR City Space that is, associated with the radio station WBUR. It is their performance space. It is beautiful. We have done stuff there before. It is on July the 26th of this year, 2024, and it's at 7 p.m. If you want tickets to that, you can go to flophousepodcast.com/events and pick up your ticket to see us live in Boston. We haven't decided exactly what we're going to do. We're either going to do some sort of iconic bad Boston movie, or we are going to do one of the summer's big flops, I think, is where we're trending. But look, no matter what we do, it's going to be a fun show. We're going to do our regular presentations. Last time we were in Boston, Stuart did a presentation about cars that almost killed me from laughing. So it's always fun to do a show in Boston. So come check us out again at WBUR City Space, the 26th of July at 7 p.m. You can get tickets at flophousepodcast.com/events. Let's do letters from listeners. And you know what? I unwisely on a day when there was so much meat on this boat trip bone, picked a second letter that's very long. So I'm not going to do that one. I'm just going to keep it to one this time. Break with format. This one's from Nathan, last name withheld.
Nathan,
you are the singular letter, Nathan.
Mort Nathan.
Mort Nathan.
That would be, yeah.
Nathan, Mort.
Let me explain about my movie, Boat Trip. I was going through a rough time.
Yeah. Nathan writes, for the last 6 months, I've been slowly rewatching the James Bond series. I've just rewatched the 2 Timothy Dalton films, and I find that for the last 5 days, I've had License to Kill by Gladys Knight and the Pips lodged in my forebrain. Since that movie was one of my first Bonds, I have a fondness for the song, however ridiculous, stalkerish, and overwrought it may be. It's a Bond song, after all. Got me wondering, what are your favorite songs from a movie and your least favorite songs from a movie? Doesn't have to be Bond song, dudes, calm down. Caveats. Sorry, Dan, nothing from Stop Making Sense.
Wow.
Stuart, sorry. You may not pick Dawkins' Dream Warriors from A Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Sorry, Elliot, no Fiddler on the Roof. So that's from Nathan, last name withheld.
Just the kind of torturous experiment Nathan Fielder would specialize in.
So are we talking about a song that was written for a movie?
A
song that is in the movie, like created by the characters?
Specifically written for the movie. And because it was that, I did a little looking around.
Uh-huh.
I have multiple runners up, which I can maybe mention after we all go around the horn. But I went with I'm Going to Go Back There Someday from the Muppet movie, the song that Gonzo sings, the very wistful song out in the desert. And worst, probably something written originally for the movie Dear Evan Hansen. Did not like that.
Got him.
So you
Not
didn't
like
do
that
you
movie.
didn't
Don't like those
research what
songwriters that
songs
much.
were original
Don't.
to the film.
There's
No, I
one new
don't.
song, I forget what it's called.
Elliot, I want to toss to you with the reminder that there's a little movie called Cocktail that had a song specifically written for it.
It was very much, that's exactly the movie that was my least favorite. I'll start with that. Then my least favorite song of all time, of course, also happens to be a song written for a movie that is Kokomo by the Beach Boys. That was written for the movie Cocktail. Hate it. Hate everything about it. Hate what it stands for. Hate the sound of it.
I feel like it's like 1 degree separated from a Red Hot Chili Pepper song.
Kokomo?
Yeah, I feel like the Red Hot
Interesting.
Chili Peppers, if they were singing about like the Caribbean instead of California, they would write a Kokomo.
I mean, if the instrumentation was different, yes.
Maybe a little.
I don't know if there's like as many steel drums in a Red Hot Chili
That's
Peppers.
fair. I feel
feel
like they would do it.
I feel like there's an undercurrent in the Red Hot Chili Pepper songs of I'm singing about this, but I'm also a drug addict. So there's a little bit more, slightly more depth. Whereas Kokomo, it's I'm singing about this and I'm a middle-aged man or older hitting on a young woman, lying about a made-up beach island I'm telling her I'm going to take her to. And everything I don't like about it.
Yeah,
is
Anthony
right there.
Kiedis and his like 17-year-old girlfriend. He doesn't know anything about a middle-aged guy hitting on underage girls.
I mean, I don't know their personal lives. I will say the one thing I like about Kokomo is that I figured out I can do the lyrics pretty closely to "Strawberry Fields Forever," and that's been fun to do to annoy my children with. And of course, my most favorite music that was written for a movie is probably the Wizard of Oz soundtrack songs. Like I love those songs. I find myself singing them a lot. I think they are. That movie in particular, we mentioned earlier, it breaks Roger Ebert's hot air balloon rule because it's such an amazing movie in so many different ways. I think the music in it is so great. And considering like, it's not like they put extra time into the songs for that movie more than they would have for any other movie. You know, in a lot of ways it was a big production, but like I don't know. It's just it feels like that's like a lightning in the bottle type of songs for a movie. And even the song they cut out, the Jitterbug, is still a really fun song and a song I really like a lot. So even the deleted song from Wizard of Oz is a great song. And Kokomo should have been a deleted song from the human musical catalog.
Stuart, do you have anything or should we come back around?
No, I mean, I think I definitely have favorites, which is anything by Wang Chung. So like To Live and Die in L.A. or Fire in the Twilight from the Breakfast Club soundtrack, both bangers.
Yes.
Songs I don't like.
I mean, you don't have to. If you don't have to.
That's a little harder to think of.
Alonso, do you?
I'm not a hater. I'm a lover.
Least favorite, I'm going to go with I Just Called to Say I Love You from The Woman in Red, which everything Jack Black says about it in High Fidelity is true.
Stevie Wonder is so great, but that song is so not great.
Yeah.
So many choices here. Like I love all the songs from Until the End of the World. Cole Porter wrote a lot of great songs for movies, including True Love from High Society. I'm going to go with a song called I Like Life from the musical Scrooge by Leslie Bricusse, performed by Albert Finney and I'm forgetting the guy who plays the Ghost of Christmas Present. Kenneth Moore, thank you, Dave. But yeah, it's a song that I like a lot and have added to the repertoire. And I'm also going to say my favorite song from the James Bond film License to Kill is actually Patti LaBelle's "If You Asked Me To," which is the closing credits song of that movie.
Do you guys have another favorite James Bond song, like a theme song, opening song?
I mean, I love You Only Live Twice. I think that's
good
a great
one.
song.
I mean, Goldfinger.
View to a Kill, baby, Duran Duran.
Sure.
I got, just because I
Nobody does it better.
did the research, I'm going to give a few runners up really quickly. Call Me by Blondie from American Gigolo. Cheek to Cheek by Irving Berlin for Top Hat. The Goonies are good enough from the film The Goonies,
No.
Cyndi Lauper.
A song so good it needed 2 videos.
Yeah.
Cat People, Putting Out Fires with Gasoline by David Bowie.
yeah, that's-
and one could argue the entire album Purple Rain would count.
Oh, yeah.
as-
Sure.
Yeah, can I? How about Scotty Doesn't Know from
that's a-
Eurotrip? Does that count?
A very fun
And the
song,
the
actually.
Parade album, which came from Under the Cherry Moon.
Yeah.
And Bananarama's The Wildlife.
Oh, yeah. Let us now close out with enough hating. let's say a movie.
Oh wait,
Let's
I want
celebrate.
to mention one more
What?
song actually.
Yeah.
Wait, I wish I'd thought of "Call Me" because you're right, that's a great one. But also, "Remember My Forgotten Man" from Gold Diggers of 1933 is a gorgeous song, and it's not one you expect when you're watching that movie unless you know that sequence is in the movie already.
Right.
But
Let's talk about movies that we saw and enjoyed that we would recommend. I'm going to quickly, in passing, say that on our last night in Oxford, there wasn't a ton to do. We were tired. We went to the movies and we saw The Fall Guy. And I, joined the chorus of people being like, why did this not do? I mean, it's holding on pretty well. It's got good legs, but I'm like, this is such a fun movie. It's the sort of movie people claim they want to see, and then it doesn't get a lot of people turning out.
I read an interesting theory that movie, part of its issue is more that the movie was more expensive than it should have been.
Yeah.
That's a movie that is
Could
not
be.
actually doing that badly in the theaters, but it is not, the cost of it is so high, so much higher
Yeah.
than maybe it needs to be.
Recouping.
Yeah.
But the movie I actually want to highlight is Audrey had never actually seen Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion. So we watched it recently, and it was delightful to revisit it and delightful to watch her watching it for the first time because she had sort of, I think, in her mind, imagined a much more conventional rom-com when the energy of that movie is so silly and weird. And I had forgotten also how, like, bizarre the structure of that movie is. Like, they don't actually make it to the real high school reunion until, like, the last half hour of the movie. Before that, there's, like, long setup, there's flashbacks, there's a fantasy sequence. Like, it goes all
Road
over
trip,
the place.
right?
But, yeah. But such a great cast with Mira Sorvino and Lisa Kudrow, so great in the main roles, but also Janine Garofalo and Alan Cumming and a very small part for Justin Theroux in it. And it's just if you too for some reason have not seen it, it's a movie that's maybe a little sillier than you imagine, and it's got a lot of like really genuinely funny jokes in it. Stuart, why don't you recommend something?
I'm going to recommend a movie that I went to see with Dirty Dan McCoy last night. We went to a screening of In a Violent Nature. It is it's a slasher movie, and it was produced by a friend of the podcast, Peter Kaplowski. FX lead was friend of the podcast, Steven Kostansky. And it is a slasher movie that basically just like the Jason Voorhees equivalent, in this case, Johnny, wakes up and starts hunting some teens through the woods. And it just kind of follows him, or like the camera just follows him. And it's kind of like you're watching somebody play like Red Dead Redemption or something. And it's great. It's a very specific thing. And it kind of it's like an elevated slasher, but at the same time, it very much understands that it's a slasher. And there's kind of like an interesting, like classic slasher movie happening in the background. And there's some good gags, and I liked it a lot. Yeah, In a Violent Nature. Check it out.
Elliot?
I want to recommend a movie from 1948. It is a film noir, which means it's kind of like a crime movie. And it's a movie called Raw Deal. And it's Anthony Mann directed it. Anthony Mann, who would go on to direct many other great movies and had already directed a bunch of great movies. It stars Dennis O'Keefe and Claire Trevor, who you may remember from Stagecoach and also Key Largo. And she does what she does best, which is plays a kind of like, slightly well-meaning but tawdry kind of, underbelly of society type lady. She helps the love of her life escape from prison, and along the way they pick up another woman who was involved in his legal defense, and it turns into a kind of not exactly normal love triangle. I mean, the love triangle eventually develops, but a lot of it is about the tension between these two women, the tension between him and the two of them, the tension between the world as they're trying to escape and get out of the United States and get down to Panama. And as always with film noir movies, the kind of dumb mistakes and short-sighted choices that they make along the way. And it's a really good, short, tight, kind of like crime, kind of tragic romance. And there's one relationship in it that feels pretty unbelievable. But otherwise, I really liked it a lot. And the cinematography in it is especially gorgeous. And it was shot by John Alton, who would later go on to win the Academy Award for An American in Paris. But this is black and white cinematography is doing that looks very Greg
An American
Toldy.
Werewolf in Paris?
Yeah, An American Werewolf in Paris, exactly. Yeah, the Academy Award winner. Yeah, Vincent Minnelli is An American Werewolf in Paris.
It's got that Bush song. Yeah.
Yeah. That dancing werewolf. He's really amazing. It's a fun kind of affecting at the end film noir movie that looks great. It's called Raw Deal.
Not
Alonso.
the Schwarzenegger one, though.
Not the Schwarzenegger Raw Deal.
Yes.
For a second, I got really excited.
Hey, do we know when this episode drops?
This one, I believe,
This Saturday
should be
should be.
this Saturday. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
sweet. Well, I'm going to recommend a movie that I'm going to be showing on TCM, but that also has a great new Blu-ray. And I highly recommend that even if you see it on cable, if you are a non-cord cutter, and I love you, you should also pick up the Blu-ray because it's got a lot of really great extras and commentaries and whatnot. It's a documentary called Gay USA that was recently restored from 1977. And on one day, various camera crews shot gay pride parades in LA, New York, San Francisco, and a couple of other cities. And that year's parades were of historical significance because it was right after the whole Anita Bryant campaign had started, where she was trying to roll back gay rights in Florida. And so, there was a lot of at stake politically that year. And so the doc just really kind of captures the energy and the excitement of kind of a nascent gay community in this country, but at the same time, people understanding that they were very much under fire. And it's directed by Arthur Bresson Jr., who is a fascinating figure because he directed sort of, straight up, queer narrative dramas, but he also made documentaries and he also made adult titles. So he kind of had, he covered the waterfront in that sense. So yeah, literally and figuratively. Anyway, Gay USA, it's a great documentary. And, I'll be on TCM talking about it on the 21st of June and then doing some other stuff on the 28th, but also pick up the beautiful Blu-ray from Altered Innocence.
And another thing, of course, people should pick up is your book. This is your invite to plug your book. Do it now. I demand it. Plug your book.
Sure. Yes, Hollywood Pride. It's out from TCM and Running Press, available wherever books are sold. It's also an ebook. It's also an audiobook read by me, if this episode hasn't already turned you off to my voice. And it is a history of LGBTQ plus Hollywood, both on screen and off. So it's about the movies, but it's also about the artists who made it happen over the decades. And it goes all the way from about 1895 to Everything Everywhere All at Once, doing as well as I could to cram it all in there. So it came out really beautifully. The TCM folks did a great job designing it and finding great stills with it. And I'm told the prose doesn't suck. So yes, pick up Hollywood Pride wherever you buy books.
I'm excited. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being in the trenches with us, suffering.
It would have been a shame if you guys had not eventually gotten to this movie, and I think you kind of needed an interpreter, so I was happy to have served that role.
This was one of those moments where, I really appreciate it, and I know that your job is not to be an educator, Alonso, to Wild Allies. It's just your job to live your life and not to have to decode parts of the world to other parts of the world. So, but I appreciate especially you putting this in the context of what was going on in mainstream cinema involving queer cinema at this time, and just how ridiculously not just bad in general, but bad for the time.
Not just terrible, but retrograde.
Well, yes, awful movie, but a great excuse to spend some time with you. Thank you for being our guest. Thank you to our network, Maximum Fun. If you go to MaximumFun.org, there's a lot of great other shows on there. Thank you to our producer, Alex Smith. He goes by the name Howell Doughty. I believe he has a new album out. You should check that out.
You should check it out.
And I guess that's it. For the Flophouse, I've been Dan McCoy.
I've been Stuart Wellington.
I've been Ellie Kalin.
And I've been special guest Alonso Duralde.
Bye.
Oh, Dan's doing the summary. I feel bad for Dan.
Yeah. We're a movie that
This is gonna be a rough one.
light on plot. It was kind of hard for me to.
Rich with incident.
There's a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah, I think you can skip a lot of that though.
I'll do my best on the fly to.
We'll see. Yeah,
trim down some of this.
Sure.
Cut it down. The first 4-hour episode of the Flophouse.
And it's about
really
boat trip.
Dig in.
Boat trip Alexanderplatz.
Maximum Fun.
A worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
supported
directly
by you.